Let's acknowledge the good friends of the Loft Party Podcast. The Majestic Restaurant and Pendergast Club, 931 Broadway in Kansas City, Missouri. The J. Rieger Kansas City Distillery. Oh, so good. Now onto our regularly scheduled program.
It's not getting it.
Welcome everybody out there. The Good Times with Good People Company proudly presents the Loft Party Podcast, where it is always about good times, good people, and good talk. Please subscribe to the Loft Party Podcast on YouTube, Facebook, or SoundCloud, and be sure to tell a friend. You've received your invitation, and welcome to the party. I'm your host and panel moderator, Rio, and let's introduce today's panel. We have got Dave Elliott, aka Big Dave. He's the owner of C&P Construction. We've got Brian Massey. He is for a short time, a data analyst for DST Systems. And of course, the anonymous female, the right hand of the podcast that does not want you to know her name. So, we've got a lot of topics to cover today. There's been a lot going on in the news. So let's jump right in with the party line and, of course, today's party fouls. So let's start right off with Campaign 2016.
K-A-I-N, capitalized.
Capitalized, exactly.
Absolutely.
So first, Trump. He gets new leadership for his campaign. And so Paul Manafort, who was running this campaign, is out, and Stephen Bannon and Kellyanne Conway are in. What I find really odd about that is Bannon and Conway were both really kind of outspoken in all of the kind of TV pundit circles against a lot of Trump's behavior. But they wound up running his campaign. So I thought that was really odd, because I remember seeing both of them, having things to say. So, did anybody else see any of that?
I did, and I'll look at it this way. couple things I want to make a point on. Kellyanne Conway becomes the first woman campaign manager.
I did not know that. Okay.
First woman campaign manager ever in a presidential election. And she deserves some credit for that. Mm-hmm. And Trump deserves some credit for letting her be in that position.
Yeah, absolutely.
She did criticize him. And isn't she the perfect person, really, to say, look, dude, you get on message here, or this is just going down the tank, and we just might as well throw the towels in now. Which he has turned around and done.
I thought it was smart of her.
I think she's smart. She was a pollster. I mean, she has a lot of bright ideas. I think she has the personality to do with it. And I think she has definitely earned her way into this position.
Yeah, she definitely seems like she has a way more even temperament for the pundit talking than
Manafort.
Yeah, than Manafort.
Manafort. I don't know. He looked to me like some slick Vegas dude.
Yeah.
He just didn't get a good feel for him as far as Trump campaigns go.
Yeah, he came across as like maybe one of Trump's like for real buddies, like one of his homies he golfs or drinks with.
Yeah, that would be a good way to put it.
And I didn't think he was, because he was just
I felt like he was doing what Trump wanted him to do.
Yeah.
Not like trying to get him
like what he
corralled.
needed to do, right.
Okay, well, this is how you're going to be, so I'm just going to go out and just defend that.
Yeah, but it was, it's kind of at a certain point you're like, how are you defending the indefensible, Because like I was watching like a couple of weeks ago, all of the surrogates going out for the Trump campaign, and he would say something really off the wall. And they were like, yeah, but what he really meant was
they were trying to square it. They were trying to square it.
Yeah, but it's just...
If Hillary said the same thing, her surrogates would try to
absolutely,
square it too.
absolutely.
That's what they do.
But it was just like, I don't care if it's, what side of the fence you're on. it's just like at a certain point, like trying to defend the indefensible is like, come on, like
It's like beating your head against
yeah,
the bloody wall.
Yeah.
You know?
So as far as his choice with, especially Kellyanne Conway, I thought that was a good choice because she was already like, hey, he needs to calm it down and stop talking crazy, and so bringing her into the campaign.
It probably was a good move for him, but honestly, I feel like she's as insincere as he is, because you hear all of this just 180 from her. Like we were watching George Stephanopoulos on Sunday, and she was talking about, but you know what he really meant was da 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 da, and it's like, now that he's hired you, you're going to be for him instead of sticking to what you believe.
Yeah, well, I definitely agree with that.
Just like when she was, you know, when he made the comment about, you know, African Americans living in poverty and, you know, not having jobs, blah, blah, blah. And she goes, well, I'm a white person and I felt very moved by that. And I'm just like, okay, what is exactly, I don't know what point you were trying to make when you need to let an African American talk to that, not you, white lady. You know,
which actually, well, it pivots to the next.
You want to pivot to it?
Well, it pivots to the next point in the Trump section of things, and so, you know, I heard what he said.
to a group of white people.
Yes. So
he was addressing not even the demographic he was talking about.
So one, Trump tends to sound disingenuous to me in general. Like just not even. I mean, even when he's talking like kind of reckless, where he sounded reckless, and people are like, "Oh, he's just saying, you know, what he really feels," but even that doesn't sound like he really means it, and maybe even in a good way. Like maybe he really doesn't mean this. He just thinks that
I feel like
there's a chunk of his base that wants to hear it. And give me 1 second, Brian. And when it comes to, you know, talking to the African American voting bloc, having Trump not sound very genuine in a room full of people who don't look like the people you're actually trying to talk to, it comes across even more disingenuous, which is the reason I think he got so much backlash from it. Brian?
I agree, and I think he sort of set himself up to have that. I mean, that's why a lot of people view him now, because I feel like a lot of the times that he spoke before, he just likes to be. He's gonna say whatever gets him attention. You know, he's kind of like the ornery kid at Thanksgiving that's acting out just because he knows the whole family's gonna turn and like look and pay attention, and so you start getting that feeling for everything he says is just for maybe attention or to just kind of stir things up. And it's hard to, I mean, he's built his personal capital that way. And it's hard to start changing that when it's time to get serious. And
It's hard to take him seriously when maybe he is being very serious, but...
And you know, now, like this week, and I know it's only Monday, but really, like, they started yesterday and heavy this morning, all the attack ads between both sides. But, you know, even this morning on the news, they were talking about how now he's considering changing his stance on immigration. And I'm like, so you're going to bitch and moan about the other candidates that flip-flopped, but now you're going to do that when that's been your whole campaign's, you know, platform is getting illegal immigrants out of the country and all of that. Yeah. And now you're going to say, well, no, it's okay.
Yeah.
So what are you running on at this point?
Yeah. You're softer on Trump than the rest of us. So what are your thoughts?
I'm obviously somewhat mixed up on him.
But what are your thoughts, though?
But here's one thing that a lot of people that I talk to anymore have been talking about this. And what Trump is trying to do is reach out to a Democratic voter, even though he said the black population, this is black and white, poor, that have been victimized by the Great Society.
And which is why I started by saying he may very well have been sincere.
Then he shouldn't
But-
have specifically said African American.
But listen, this is something that a lot of my peers and contemporaries and I have been talking about a lot recently.
Mm-hmm.
Before the Great Society, especially even in the poor whites, but the poor blacks, the single mother rate was 7%. Now it's over 70%. So we're saying, why do you keep voting for the same people that keep you down? Because they want a voting bloc. And we all know the horrible quote that Lyndon Baines Johnson did. This will keep the N-words voting for us for 200 years.
Yeah.
These are things, Lyndon Baines Johnson was no friend
No.
of the black
No,
community. Not at all. He was a big, bald, racist Texan.
He took the opportunity when he felt like he had to take it, but he did not feel true in his heart sympathy for anybody else, for that matter.
So a lot of my more conservative friends are saying to ourselves, we are very upset at seeing what's going on in the poor communities. We think that we have some different ideas to start to change the world the other way. And the frustration on our part, now I don't know if Trump thinks this, but the frustration is that every time we come up with, we almost get shouted down. Instead of just listening to us and saying, wait a second, we do care, we do have ideas, and it's there. We can reverse this trend. It's going to take a long time. It took us a long time to get to here. It's going to take us a long time to get to there, but we have ideas.
Yeah.
And it doesn't go with, I want you to vote for me, so I'm going to keep you at a certain stage because you'll have to have me.
Yeah.
And that's what we see the Democrat and the Great Society has become. So now, I'll forgive Trump this because he's set a point that we've all kind of been afraid to say for fear of being looked at as racist. But it's not a racist situation. We got some different ideas to try to get this turned around another direction because it's not going in a good direction now.
Yeah.
So I really think that's where he's at. That's my view on it. There's a lot of talk in a lot of areas on this view that give us a shot. We might have some better ideas. We want to raise you up.
You know what's interesting to me is personally meeting as many Republicans as I have in the last decade. Everybody that I've met personally, and I know personally, I really like personally. So I find myself having to square the person I know with the party affiliation. Because here's where I see the Republicans' problem with every demographic other than kind of white men.
Yes.
It's not that there aren't good ideas. It's when I think there have been the incorrect surrogates for lack of a better term, trying to give the ideas. So you get a guy who you know, you can't remember the last time he's been broke, trying to say, I've got ideas how for you not to be broke. It sounds disingenuous. It may not be, but it certainly sounds that way. And that's really the problem. Picking the right messenger for the message is just as important as the message.
Right.
And I don't think the Republicans have been good.
We've been horrible at it.
Picking the messenger.
We've been horrible at it.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we're such a fractured party in so many ways. You know, you look back at the Mitt Romney election, I think would have probably been a pretty good president. The evangelicals didn't vote for him because he was Mormon. And I'm kind of like, really?
Yeah, and that really was the only reason they didn't.
The only reason they didn't vote for him. To me, this is stunning. This is absolutely stunning. And Trump's going to have a certain amount of people just won't vote for him because he's Trump.
Yeah, he is. Whether he's appealing to you or not, he is not evangelical Christian.
Right.
You know, he can say he is,
No,
but we all know he's not.
But he doesn't say he is.
No, but I think I guess what I'm saying is he can say he believes in it all.
Right. He claims he has some faith, and that's and he probably does.
Yeah.
I would like to think he does.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man.
True
I
enough.
can't make that judgment.
True enough.
God can.
True enough. So, I think we have spent some time on Trump, and maybe we should devote a few minutes to Hillary. So I saw today that she is not going to have to give a deposition on the email lawsuit thing. She is going to have to, they're going to send like a list of questions that she's going to have to fill out, and it's supposed to be coming from, I want to say,
Some committee, right?
yeah, it's supposed to be a more independent committee that is supposed to be a kind of a watchdog thing where she's going to have to fill out this questionnaire, but she won't have to actually sit for a deposition.
Yeah, Judicial Watch is the one that sues.
Yes, Judicial
So I was
Watch.
gonna say, so even though they decided not to, because somebody sued her.
Right.
How can you sue somebody over? I don't understand that.
Say
How-
for safety.
She hasn't turned over everything.
Is that a closed book test? Closed book partner? 'Cause that would be awesome.
That's the issue. She's still hiding stuff, and she has reason to hide her stuff, and everybody knows it.
Yeah, it's
I don't care who you are, whether you're going to vote for it or not, you can't deny it.
it's kind of amazing to me.
I just feel like at some point you've got to quit going after this woman. Like she's had the Benghazi thing 9 different times. They tried to bring her up on charges. I think that's ridiculous.
She's Teflon Hillary, I'll say that.
I just think it's ridiculous that you can keep going after somebody, and I don't care who you are. I think when it comes to that point, it's a witch hunt.
But she lied to the families blatantly. She also lied about the video, and these are just facts.
Are you talking about Benghazi?
Yes, she lied
Okay,
to
but
the,
even
she
when
lied to
she
the
went
families.
up,
That is a sin.
but even when she testified in front of Congress, they still couldn't find enough
I
to do
agree,
anything
but
about
she
it.
still lied to those families.
I just don't think we'll ever know the full story.
I got a pretty good idea of what it is.
Well, I can make speculation, but
speculation.
I'm not there. I don't see it
But
all.
this is part of our government right now, anonymous female, because they have their ability to spin on anything. This is where we're at right now. That's why they've become the machine.
Right.
They are the elite.
Well, they haven't become the machine. They've
They
always
are-
been the
yeah,
machine.
but
They've just
they are
become
even
better at it.
They're even better at it.
Yeah.
And so now, nothing applies to them. The laws don't apply to them.
But it's
If we
not
did half the
just
stuff we
her.
did, every single one of us would be in jail.
I don't disagree with that, but it's not just her.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
But they love to go after her.
That's why our Congress has like a 7% approval rating. Let's get real about these things.
Yeah.
But that,
We are
I guess
dealing
that's
with
kind
a
of my
machine.
point. Like,
Well,
quit going after the people. Like, you need to go after Congress, not after the person that's running for president.
Oh, you
Because-
definitely need to go after them too. if they've done wrong.
But just because she's a nominee for president makes her an easy target for a third of the people that want someone else as president. I I mean,
But this has been going on since before she even said she was going to run.
Yeah, they've been investigating the Clintons in one way or another
They've been-
since Bill was in office.
Since before
Since
that.
before Bill was
With
in
good
office.
reason.
Yeah. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't reasons. I guess the one thing I have found about the Clintons, to your point, is that for whatever reason, they are Teflon.
They are Teflon.
So
I don't know
maybe,
how, why, what, where.
yeah, and I guess, and which
Maybe.
also to your point is, at a certain point, do you just go, you know what, fuck it, because you can't make anything
But I'm
stick,
just like,
you know?
what makes the Republican Party hate her? I mean, it is a hate at this point that you can tell it is pure venom.
Well,
that
you know
they
what
go
I-
after her with.
But-
It's not even necessarily like, we'll figure out what the fuck we're gonna say to you, but we're gonna bring you up on these charges.
What I think is interesting is her disapproval rating, like, period, like across the board, it's 60%. Like, we've never, and Trump's is lower than that. So let me just, you know, for full disclosure, but we never had two candidates that I can remember that nobody liked. Like, that's just,
Absolutely, we have that.
That's-
We absolutely have that.
I'm just like, that is just the strangest predicament.
But you know what? Okay, so we go back to every time we really talk about something super serious, we always say, you know, it cries the loudest before it dies. Maybe this is the, you know, beginning of a pivot in the way our government works. You know?
I hope so, to tell you the truth.
I hope so too. I think that there's enough people out there. I think Trump and some of the Republican candidates and definitely Bernie have lit a fire under people
Yeah?
about, we're tired of this. We've been tired of it. Take notice, we damn near whooped your ass.
Which is fine.
And in the Republican
you-
sense, good or bad, rather, I don't know whether it's good or bad or not. But they did go for an outsider. Now, you know, is that, I think that some of the Trump people are kind of narrow-minded, but at the same time, I think the majority of the newer Republican Party, I'll call it, it does not like the machine. They're tired of the machine.
That's a very nice way to put it.
But it's not-
the newer
it's not-
Republican Party.
You can't just make your voice heard for a presidential election. You've got to do something about Congress, about the way the judges are. I think it's ridiculous, and I think you might have missed the whole, the meetings we had, or the podcast that we had when we talked about, I think it's ridiculous that judges have a life term.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
I
it's
think it's crazy that it's so hard, even if you vote, it's very hard to pull a congressman out of their seat.
I think it's ridiculous how polarized our Supreme Court judges are. That whoever puts you in, you are sold to their soul on the fact that, you know, you better vote the way I told you because I'm the one that put you in. So now,
Yeah, but once they're in, they don't have any control over that.
I know, but
You know, I
but
mean-
you look at Thomas and Alito and all these guys, and they were definitely, Roberts was actually a little bit more of a moderate than we thought. And then you got Kagan and Sotomayor,
Yeah.
who are very, very liberal in their views, and then you got good old Justice Ginsburg.
Yeah.
Holy
And we're
moly.
forgetting who?
I don't know if they're propping her up or not yet.
she
What were
is.
you gonna say?
She is pretty old. Yeah, Brian?
I just think it's kind of ironic that the whole system in place was to keep any one area having too much power to make
Right.
things happen, is the same system that's making it difficult to stop. I mean, you almost want to call it corruption, right? The corruption of the machine itself.
Yeah.
But that's because Congress over the years have voted their rights into power.
But that's still my point. I mean, that's
Yeah,
right?
I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, like
They have
yeah.
6%
We don't have to
approval
vote on anything that they do. They vote for their own. They
Yeah.
vote for their health care, they vote for their salary increases, they vote for all of it themselves.
rate. But they
Well,
won't vote
of
for
course, if you're gonna ask me, should I make $100,000 a year? Absolutely, I should make $100,000 a year.
$174,000.
I'm just
Exactly.
saying,
Hey,
well,
as
I'm
a
just
an
saying,
entry-level congressman.
Yes.
I wasn't even talking
you
about
have
their
pension-
salary. I'm
pension
just
for
saying,
life.
if you ask me if I'm gonna vote for something that's gonna make my life better, hell yeah, I'm gonna vote for it.
Yeah, I don't think any branch should be able to vote for their own stuff. Like,
No, I think if we have to vote for everything else, we citizens should have to vote for that shit too.
yeah.
Period.
I agree.
Well, Rio and I can't get elected, that's the problem.
We're not gonna go down.
But then, I mean, I don't know. I get that. But then, what if the citizens, pulled one of these UK things and said, you know what? Let's make it 20,000. Let's see them do it on minimum wage. The moment you do that, no one's going to want to become a congressman, right?
You're
But
actually
you-
going to get people in there that want to do it because you think about people but you think about people that are that work at like not Social Security, but
social services.
yeah,
and-
like they don't do it for the money. They do it because they believe in what they're doing.
Yeah, because they don't make no damn money. Because
Lawyers,
I know,
I mean-
but we're talking about qualify. I mean, we
What
can't act
qualifies
like,
them?
We can't act like this is an easy job. I mean, you
Look,
have to.
No,
you can't
no.
say qualified people because I could run for Congress and be elected.
No.
And I can tell you right now, I don't know enough about the intricacies of our laws to be sitting as a congressman. But any one of us that could happen.
Yeah, I mean, the way our Constitution is set up, we definitely could.
And there are people in there that are in that position.
Yeah. I mean, we
They
got junior
were not
congressmen.
lawyers, they got elected, and it's kind of like,
You're like,
oh boy, what do I do now?
What do I do now? Yeah.
But they also have to travel back and forth, they have to field all their constituents' calls.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a certain amount of heavy work that
This
to be
is-
a congressman or a senator.
I wish Mark was here so he could tell us. I mean, we had a very disheartening conversation with Mark Church.
Yeah, Mark
'Cause
would
he-
have an interesting
But,
view on that.
well,
He works for-
was an interning for a congressman.
Yeah, so,
And it was really just
Eye-opening.
yeah.
very
to say the
sad
least.
to hear what actually happened.
Well, I'm not disillusioned
I mean,
that way at all.
even more so than you really think.
Yeah, like you think it's gonna be disillusioning, and then you hear it, and you're like, really?
No, I'm not disillusioned by that at all. I know exactly what's going on up there.
Yeah.
That's why I rail against the machine.
Yeah.
All right, we need to pivot to our next topic because we ran out of time last podcast, and I really wanted to touch on, and I'm sure you've got some things to say, Big Dave, about the devastating flooding in Louisiana.
Yeah, I find this very troubling.
Yeah, to say the least, 60,000 homes across 20 parishes.
Yeah, and I know the territory well.
Yeah, 13 people dead. Yeah, this is.
Do you know people that still live down there?
No,
This is.
I know a lot of people live down. I don't have any relatives live down there no more.
This
But
is so much broad. The real estate is so much broader than Katrina.
much broader.
Yeah,
than
this
Katrina.
is really.
But this is in Louisiana, this is a different dynamic than Katrina
It is.
because it is rural.
Yes.
Okay, the rural people in Louisiana are self-sufficient people. Okay, much more than you'd ever dream they are. They're very religious people. They are very much into what we call the fado-do, which is going to a Saturday night, you go to a fado-do, that's a dance. So we're gonna dance, we're gonna drink, we're gonna eat, we're gonna have fun, all right? Where in the city in Katrina, everybody's dependent there,
You're right.
and they can't get out of their own damn way. You don't have that in the rural areas near as much. These people are looking at it, and I've heard the interviews and the talks, is that they're looking at it as, we're kind of all in this together.
Yeah.
All of our houses are screwed up. Everything's screwed up. Let's take this day at a time, and we'll get through this.
So they talk about and I'm not by any means saying it's not important, but you talk about the flooding in Louisiana, and then the entire West Coast is wildfires.
Yeah.
I mean, from all the way up to Washington.
Idaho. They're burning into Idaho even.
Yeah.
Well,
There's
it's
fires.
all over the
There's
West
fires
Coast
all
and
over the West
over,
right now,
but
and that's somewhat common, but it's a little exaggerated.
they
due to
said
the-
that the three that are burning now are the worst that they've ever had.
Yep.
Ever.
They're fast and all this.
Yeah, and that's just gonna make it even worse for, you don't have that natural landscape. So there is going to be more flooding and more, issues down the road, because how long does it take a forest to
Well,
revive? I mean, it's
these aren't forests.
decades.
These aren't forests that are burning. And that's what you got.
They are.
In
Some of
Southern
it is.
California, you got to understand what Southern California is. It's not.
Yeah, I know what Southern California
That's
is.
scrub. Scrub is tinder, just tinder fire ready to happen.
Ready to happen.
Well, and they found out the one in California was,
One of them.
the first one that kind of started them all was from bad electrical work.
Yep.
And and then the other two were arson.
Yep.
But it's just, they have fires in Colorado. It's just
But it's
ridiculous.
different. What they got to look at in California is they really got to stop and say, where are we locating houses? Everybody wants this canyon view or side of a mountain view where they can look out over everything. You go find out where most of these houses are, and I bet you that's where you find out where they are.
I'm sure they are, but the same thing could be said for Louisiana. Why are you building below sea level? Why are you building, it's just the nature of, you run out of places to live, and people buy up in California,
Bingo.
they buy up big
They say that
acres
prime
of
real
land.
estate, but it's true, but you also run an inherent risk when you buy in an area like that this can happen. This is not something that they didn't know would happen, because they've had these fires before.
Yeah, every year there's this fire season.
Every year, and it's just, it's not like we have tornadoes out here.
Yeah, and on top of course, fire season, they've been in a rain drought.
Yes.
So
it's exaggerated.
It's super difficult to put these fires out, and our prayers and everything goes out to everybody affected in the wildfires in the West and the flooding in Louisiana. The thing I think that's interesting with flooding in Louisiana, it took the government forever to say something. With Katrina, it took like a week, but it seems like it's been a couple of weeks, and they still haven't said anything.
This is the double standard.
Yeah, and
Yes, they
media
did, the
propagates.
yeah,
Media propagates that, because Bush, after the 6th day, he actually flew over it.
But Obama signed
he did say
state of emergency within hours of it happening.
yeah. I guess
It didn't take days for them to.
Yeah, I guess. Yes, he signed the state of emergency and he sent surrogates down there, but it seems like the type of situation that a president needs, like you say, a flyover, something. He needs to.
You need to leave Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah, he needs to. Yeah, because of course it happened during his time on vacation, and so it comes across, which I know.
We don't know why he has.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, I know
Ceremonial,
that
but
I know it's ceremonial. I know he deserves a vacation. He works harder than all of us. I know that. But kind of a disaster happens. it seems like you may need to take a day or two out of your schedule, go down there.
Got a big old plane.
Put your foot on the ground, and then maybe go back to Martha's Vineyard. But it just,
a couple days after that.
So that's the only thing that's kind of been bothering me about it. I mean, I personally am a fan of this president, but I didn't, and I don't like the fact that he hasn't been down there yet. So.
Is it safe for him to be there though? I mean, that like, we don't know why. We don't know why it took Bush 6 days. We don't know why he hasn't
Bush
been
was on
there.
vacation too.
Yeah.
I mean, when Katrina oh no, that was 9/11. Never mind.
Bush was on
But
vacation just like Obama.
But you don't know why they're not there. And none of us need to know.
No, I don't.
No.
I don't presume to know why. I just.
But there could be, I guess.
It's just the optics.
It is.
Really.
It is, but I think that you have to remember that he can't be everywhere all the time. And yes, he was on vacation, but they've said this is the worst flooding in that region ever.
My point
Is
being,
there can they keep him safe if he goes down there? And unfortunately, if Secret Service says no, I mean, it's not like he can say, I'm going anyway. They control, if they don't want him to go, he's not going to go.
but you're throwing out a double standard.
I'm not, because
they would hope Bush, if it was Bush down there, the media would crucify him. That
quite frankly, I didn't say anything.
It's the same.
I'm not holding a double standard because I never said anything
But the
about
media
Bush.
will.
I get that, but I'm not the media. I'm just saying this is my opinion of it.
What do you think?
I didn't say anything about Bush not going to Katrina immediately because it's the same thing.
What are you thinking, young Mr. Massey?
I think I agree with some of the things that both sides have said. The anonymous female, in the sense that we don't know the whole story. There could be other things that we don't know that's going on. But I also agree with the fact that it's in general. I think, Mario, what you were saying is that it's disappointing that he hasn't come by. Like this entire region is in need.
Yeah.
And it would be.
And it's not like he hasn't signed the paperwork to get things in place.
Just uplifted.
But
uplifted in general,
lifting
saying
people up that I
hey,
care.
this guy, this guy cares.
You want to say
Exactly.
I care.
Exactly.
Well, I say everybody out there in podcast party land, we have got one of our returning champions joining us. A little late, but better late than never. Chris O'Connor is joining our panel, and we are actually about to wrap up talking about the natural disaster in Louisiana, and we touched on the wildfires going on in the West Coast. Before we go to the next topic, you have any thoughts on that?
I want to honor Mr. O'Connor, though. I'm having a Pendergast tonight for the first time in honor of Mr. O'Connor.
What do you think? Liking it?
Excellent.
Good.
Just
Thank you, sir.
just saying.
Very nice.
I did that in honor of you, and I'm glad I did.
All right. So, any thoughts before we move to our next topics?
We were
on
talking
the-
about Louisiana.
Yeah, I'm a little frustrated by Louisiana, to be perfectly honest. I'm so sick of people living in a floodplain, knowing all the possibilities. Literally, the water flows right down to you, and then expecting the government to come in and bail you out every time, and then bitching about the people who were, down there trying to help them out and all that stuff, and who obviously have real jobs they have to do too, and leaving and on. I was like, yeah, come on. Yeah, what was it? 2001 was Katrina, 2001 or 3 or whatever it was. Big deal. I mean, and I love Louisiana. New Orleans is one of my favorite cities in the world. Absolute beautiful place to go. You're in a floodplain. For God's sakes, you're below sea level. Figure it out. It's
the
a matter of
entire region is below sea level. Yeah.
It is not the fault of the government for not coming in and bailing their ass out.
Yeah, my point is this, though, because I lived down there a long time, too, is that there's a lot of difference between Katrina happening in the city and this happening to the Cajuns in the rural lands.
Mm-hmm.
The Cajuns will survive because that's their nature. They'll help each other out, and they'll pull this thing out. And there's a lot of them down there that give a damn less rather than government housing or not. Problem is they don't have flood insurance, most of them, because this got so high, it went in areas that never ever flooded before, they thought they were fine. We had a 1,000-year event.
Yeah.
That storm,
Yeah.
you know, I watched it, I was in Florida, and I was watching it, and it just sat there, it was a tropical storm that never was.
Yeah.
It was a cut-off low,
and
and
just
it just
didn't
sat
move,
there.
sat there.
Formed right offshore, and half on land, half offshore, and it just sat there and spun.
Yeah.
And I told my wife, I said, them people down there are gonna have a hard go, because this is bad.
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
horrific for the people. What I really get bothered by is the spirit that the government should come and bail your ass out for everything. People got on George Bush so bad after Katrina, going, well, you waited too long to send him in. The way the federal government works is the governor actually has to request federal aid. The federal government cannot just go in and take it over and say, nope, FEMA's going in and deal with it. They never requested the aid.
The mayor failed too.
Yeah, I
The
mean,
mayor failed
they
too.
all failed. So for all the people who are like, and I love Kanye, but George Bush hates black people and he really screwed the whole thing up and yada yada, that's a bunch of bullshit. There's a system in place for a reason. This country is founded on local government that works its way up with limited federal authority. That's why it's in place. That's why the law's in place that FEMA can't just jump in even when they see a disaster. It doesn't work like that.
That's well said. You said it better. I was trying to come up with a good way to say it, but you're spot on, Chris.
All right.
It's very Jeffersonian of us.
All right, so I think we have touched on Louisiana, and now let's get to the Olympics. And I am shaking my head some more. So let's get right off the top with Lyin Lochte. So last podcast we talked about the fact that they got robbed at gunpoint, and it seemed as if the story was true. And as the week rolled on, we found out that Lochte just made this shit up.
I can recall asking
Not
that.
totally.
You did ask the question. You did ask the
He
question.
didn't totally make it up because somebody did pull a gun on him. But they didn't pull a gun on him because he was to get robbed. They pulled a gun on him because he had screwed up the bathroom
Exactly.
in a drunken fit.
Right, ripped the damn
Maybe the door didn't open right.
dispenser off the wall.
Yeah, and some
So-
things like that. And so the security guards come and said, you're going to give us some money. So, he just turned around being the drunk idiot he was. Now, I think the first thing has to be recognized is Lyin Lochte is no nuclear scientist. This guy,
Not even close.
this guy, if he wasn't a damn good swimmer, he'd probably be a homeless on the street somewhere begging because he's just an idiot.
Not a rocket scientist, no.
Not a rocket scientist.
They were playing some. Do you guys remember when he had his
reality show.
reality show?
Yeah, never saw
Oh
it.
my God!
It had to be
We
bad.
didn't see it. We saw like snippets of it,
Half
like
a season. It was
you know
horrible.
how they do the highlights, like the new episode or whatever. But they were playing parts of it this morning on the news, and I was just like, he is so stupid. Like just
How many millions of dollars
so
did he
stupid.
just piss away? I mean, you got to be.
Don Speedo dropped him in.
You're in the business.
Oh yeah.
Chris.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
you know
amazing.
what?
He
It-
just destroyed his old market.
I was thinking
Absolutely.
about
It's got 3
when
years before somebody will touch him again.
I was thinking about when Phelps, the whole smoking pot thing came out, and
Yeah.
how all of his sponsors dropped him.
Worst
and-
of all time was Tiger Woods.
I was comparing like apples to apples, I guess,
Millions of
partially.
dollars.
I mean, Phelps is a little bit smarter than
Yeah.
Lochte. and
Phelps is a lot
He smokes
A
pot,
lot smarter than Lochte.
or did.
Yeah.
What does that say?
Phelps, here's the other thing to look at it. From a man who was an athlete for a long time. These guys get put in a bubble.
Yeah.
And that's part of the problem. The same thing with Phelps. They train so hard that they have no outside life. And so Phelps had a chance, hey man, I'm hanging with these dudes and we're partying and Yeah, man, pass me a bong. I want to get a buzz on tonight with you guys. We're going to party. Yeah! Boom.
Lochte?
Very different than
Forgot
Lochte.
to tell everybody, put your effing cell phones down, put them all here in my pocket, and then we'll party.
You smoke all the pot you want, but I agree with your point. But I'm also like, you know that your lifespan for earning is limited. So if you're Michael Phelps, you know that this is clearly his last Olympics, and he is age 32. So his earning potential is about to end, and to be that dumb, and that careless with all the money that you're making and your entire livelihood is just you got to think more. Yes, they are kids, and yes, they do have to train really hard, and I get all that. They're also not just your normal kid.
Can we say Dale Carter, Larry Johnson? We got the same problem with local football players. It just
Disagree.
Wasn't Paul Warfield, that was the Dolphin. Warfield was the cornerback.
Oh, Eric Warfield?
Eric
Well, it just goes back to
Couldn't get somebody to drive his ass around because he was drunk every day.
Sure.
Night.
you didn't you didn't grow up with it. You weren't used to it. Then all of a sudden, just like I'm gonna throw his name out there, and we talk about it all the time. Just how the stupidity of Justin Bieber. When you're that young with that much money, you're going to be dumb. You're just going to, because you're dumb at that age anyway.
Yes.
Now you have money and you're in the spotlight, and it just makes it worse. And for whatever reason, people put athletes and celebrities on a pedestal like they're not human beings. So
I
I don't mind them being on a pedestal. I think they're on different pedestals. I think athletes work their ass off every day and are dedicated all the time. I think sometimes the Justin Biebers and Britney Spears just get a little bit lucky.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say necessarily haven't earned it. Everybody earns what you get. But, they didn't necessarily.
A little bit of right place at the right time.
Yeah.
She just happened to be a good looking girl in Mickey Mouse Club,
Well, that's your opinion of her, not mine.
Yeah, but there still, yet again, there is still a difference between, getting caught smoking some weed at a party and lying to the authorities and all of the news bureaus saying you gotta.
And the Olympic Committee.
Yeah, that you got a
Like
gun put to
everyone.
your head. I mean,
But I don't see on here either the Olympic Committee member that got caught scalping tickets or whatever.
oh,
he was
I
doing,
I actually did. I actually
have
did
that on
forget
the
to
list
pull
either.
that story. But this has been, which is the reason why I just said the Olympics, shaking my head some more, because there's been so much good, but there's been so much fuckery with these Olympics that it's amazing to me.
Well,
like Hope Solo, who is not probably the kindest and fuzziest human being to ever play a sport. She obviously in a super sore loser move when they lost to Sweden. She was calling their team cowards and tweeting all kind of crazy stuff, and I was just like, what is going on?
They almost didn't even let her go.
Yeah.
I did have the pleasure of meeting her, and she is a horrendous human being.
Oh.
horrendous.
So you say the
Truly
pleasure
bad
of meeting her?
person. She is really awful.
Wow.
Well, let's hope her and Lyin Lochte don't marry because they'll have the world's worst kids. I'm just saying.
Just saying. Yeah. So, and something else I noticed. The Brazilians seem to boo a lot. What is up with that?
Very passionate country.
They were booing people were winning. People won medals, and and during the medal ceremonies, and they'd be playing the national anthems, and they'd be booing, and I was like, what is going on with the? I've just never seen this before. Maybe it has happened, but I don't recall it. Did anybody else happen to
You've been to
notice?
South America, and I have too.
Yeah,
But
very
the
passionate.
But the Olympics, it's just a little bit different.
No.
All right.
Not to the South Americans. The South Americans.
And this is South America's first Olympics.
Right, and they're very, very passionate, hardcore, prideful people. And man, they can be very friendly to you, but at the same time, on the other hand, they feel like they've been crossed or dissed upon or something else. And I think what the Brazilians were seeing there, especially when the American flag went up, is our whole media dissed Rio. Boom! The whole way. They did nothing but diss them. This is going to be terrible. Water's polluted. We're all going to die. Everybody's going to get Zika. And they just, they just turned around and pounded them into the ground with this. So if I'm a Brazilian, I'm pissed. I'm pissed. And you've been talking bad about my country. I'm pissed. No. You don't talk bad about my country. That's not a good idea.
A bunch of machismo dudes who are just looking for some trouble anyway and feel disrespected. Yeah, of course they're going to be ruined. That's going to happen no matter what.
Yeah, that's my opinion.
I'm with you 1,000%. That makes a lot of sense. That's a great breakdown.
Yeah, but I say I also noticed for whatever reason the Paralympic Games that of course happened after the Olympics, their ticket sales are way down. They were hoping to sell 2 million tickets, and they've only sold like 300,000 or so. And so I'm wondering, are we going to wind up seeing the Paralympic Games not happen as often?
Do they happen in the same facilities?
I think they do.
Yeah. I think what the deal is on that is that the Olympics are 2 weeks long. You got to spend a crap load of money just to get down there, to go do all the events. And by the time the Olympics are over, the people have shot their wad. There's nothing left for them to spend.
Yeah, very true.
And I would even take it a step further and say, listen, I mean, I respect them. I find them to be amazingly inspiring. But I also think you're dealing with a niche audience.
Yeah.
I mean, I love basketball. It's a little bit different watching wheelchair basketball. I like basketball for the athleticism in the game, and I like wheelchair basketball because I really love that these people have the inner strength and fortitude to get out there and be inspiring and that kind of stuff. And that's just a different kind of a thing. I would love to see them make a permanent facility for Paralympic Games that is inexpensive to get to. And,
Yeah. I agree actually.
There's some point to doing that with the Olympics, period.
I'm
two or three
for that.
venues, and they rotate around to the 2 or 3 venues.
Yeah. If you've got 4
there-
corners of the globe,
You should do it on every continent, not
But why?
country.
But why don't they do that? Because the Olympic Committee is just as corrupt as our government.
Absolutely.
We've already-
They take
Yeah.
bribes to get where they are.
Yeah, we
Do
kind
not
of touched on
make
that.
a mistake.
Yeah.
That's not the point. They will bankrupt that area.
Yeah.
Just to get their bribes.
Yeah, we touched on that last podcast. Some of the things that the Olympic some of the things that the Olympic committees do to ensure the games, dependent upon the city, is kind of ridiculous. Like with Rio, they wound up outbidding the top bidder by several $1 billion in order to get the games in Rio, but it obviously it's been good in a lot of ways, but in other ways it's been really hard on the natives that live there. And I mean, who says that they want to live in the favelas forever, but displacing 80,000 people to build the stadiums it seems a bit excessive to me. But
I think you should have 2 facilities. I think one should be in Greece, and that should always be the Summer Games. And
I kind of agree with that, to tell you the
for
truth.
the summer, for the winter.
Yeah, you find a good spot for the winter games, and everybody
awesome.
go to Greece for the summer games, and I kind of agree with that. And maybe we do a different location for Paralympics, and
Absolutely.
I kind of
I
agree.
mean, honestly, America would be the best place in the world for the
Paralympics, I agree with that. I agree with that. So with that, we're going to wrap up the Olympics, and I noticed and almost held this for another podcast, but it did happen this week, and we want to try to stay with the weekend news. And United Healthcare is leaving a lot of the healthcare exchanges in 2017. And that's going to be a big issue because there's a lot of people covered under United Healthcare. Yeah. I just heard that today.
Because they're losing money.
Yeah.
Which was kind of the whole point of them not having the monopoly or whatever.
They were all in favor of it. I mean, it forces everybody to go buy their product or pay a penalty. So, I mean, the amount of people who are now insured is flooded. It's just a lot of people who can't afford the insurance, to be honest. And I'll tell you, I find this to be, we talked about this last week, I find this to be Obama's fault in terms of being completely unwilling to work with Congress, because there's a very simple compromise. And it was the plan that was currently in place, but let them sell it interstate instead of just intrastate. Do just basic tort reform, so you're not getting the same test 4 and 5 times, so you don't sue your doctor, which is what really drives up the cost of medicine. And then beyond that, if you're not going to buy insurance, make the penalty one that is actually steep.
Yeah.
And it's cheaper to pay the penalty than to get the insurance.
Yeah.
Those 3 basic things would have revitalized the entire plan, and I think most people could have lived with it, because it still is private insurance, and you can still only sell within your state, and it's absolute nonsense.
But I thought he was for and tried to get basically the federal, wherever you could go across states,
Absolutely
and
not.
Congress knocked it out.
No. It was never for interstate commerce on that.
As a small business with 42 employees, who continually every year has to try to get insurance for his employees, that they can afford, which is just unbelievable. Most of my employees looked into the exchange. My foremen who make a pretty good amount of money, their deductibles were off the chart. It was not attainable for them. Which the goal of the insurance, as I understand it, was to try to get those people to pay a bigger portion of it, so that the lower people would have insurance and the sick people would have insurance.
Well, yes and no, because my mom and dad are both retired, and they live off of my dad's pension, which is nothing. And they still pay almost as much as I do a month.
Mm-hmm. Well, Michelle and I pay $1,400 a month.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous, and their deductibles are outrageous.
I'm $6,000 out of pocket. And that's with my insurance plan through Humana.
And
So-
what's really frustrating, because they both, my dad just got on Medicare, but my mom,
eligible for Medicare and Medicaid.
but my mom has 2 years before she can get on it.
Gotcha.
So she goes through, the portal, and every year she has to do all of it over again.
Yes.
And it's really frustrating because
Yes.
every year they change her insurance.
And
Even
what-
the company that she goes
Yes,
to.
and this is what's happened, is that we don't know from year to year where this is going. We don't know from year to year how we're going to turn around and provide insurance for our employees. It's a highly frustrating thing. But for my foreman and some of the younger people that try to get on the change, all I saw is this is wealth redistribution in that fact. And it really is for them. It truly is. They want this to fail, in my opinion. They want a single payer system. I think this thing has been rigged up to fail from the get-go. I can't see any other reason not to argue it otherwise. Because you can't take a whole bunch of sick people and then, now the insurance companies are guilty in this, that they signed on with this saying, cool, man, we're gonna get all these people to sign up. And they didn't think they'd have that many sick people signing up. When of course they're gonna sign up.
Well, they have
And-
to.
and they have to, and so
One,
now
they-
you
yeah,
got
one,
all
they
these,
have to, and
now
now
you
they're
got
like,
all
"Oh, I
these
can
sick
get
people
insurance?"
involved with it that are running up huge bills. Of course they're gonna lose money, and now they're all of a sudden, they're freaking out, well, we're losing money. Well, what did you think was gonna happen? I have very little sympathy for them in that aspect.
I have very little sympathy in general. I think they could have self-regulated at any point they wanted to. Stop denying claims that were right.
Yes.
and stop doing horrifically
Well, and
frivolous things.
I think that's
But you-
the problem.
But you also have to understand that insurance companies are very bound legally by what they can do and what they can invest in. I also think there's a misnomer that losing money does not mean that you actually didn't turn a profit. It means you made less than you did last
Right.
quarter. And when they're publicly traded companies, they're, of course they're going to get the hell out of there. This is what
But I think-
attracts stock investors to them. So
Before we pivot to the next topic, I want to ask our younger, healthier member of the panel, what do you think about the whole healthcare thing?
I don't think healthcare should be tied to employers. I think that puts people in a very tough situation. In all aspects of going to get a job or looking for a job. So I'm going to be changing my job in 2 weeks. And the first thing I had to go look at was, well, how's my health insurance going to be affected? Now, I don't think I've been to the doctor in several years, other than just like a normal checkup to meet my new doctor up in this area. But, it's one of those things where I know if something happens, like that's the quickest way to fall into a debt that I can never get out of. And so why should the health insurance affect the way that I change how my job should be? And that I don't know, I think that just from that aspect, the system is, it's almost scary because you get stuck in a place that you can't get out of.
well, I would throw out 2 other points. One, I know a lot of kids who can't afford insurance but can pick up the bar tab. They don't have any problem with that. They can certainly get the cable TV and all this streaming crap and the new iPhone. They just can't get health insurance. Most of the time, it's a matter of what you want to spend your money on. And so that's always pissed me off really badly. But even beyond that, we pay for 100% of all of our employees' health insurance because I want to know that I have a healthy, happy staff that comes into work and I'm not losing productivity because somebody did something stupid and didn't have any insurance. We started it when we hired a kid to be an artist and his wife was pregnant. She was 5 months pregnant and never been to the doctor.
Oh, wow.
And I felt some moral responsibility for that. Like, you need to get to the doctor. This is unacceptable. And so that's what kind of started it. And
That's
it's
why I
true.
offer insurance. I have a moral responsibility to take care of my employees.
All right.
It's also an advantage for us to attract better people.
That's an interesting perspective because I'm looking at it from this side. But I think kind of to your point where it's what's important to you. These guys should be paying for insurance. They should they don't have any problem picking up.
Go back to Social Security. When they implemented Social Security, you know why they take it out of your check and you don't write a check for it? Nobody wrote the check. When it first was implemented, you had to write a check to the government, and nobody did. And so all of a sudden they made it the employer's responsibility to take it out to make sure they collected it. Nobody's going to pay for stuff that they don't want or feel like they need, even though it's super important to have.
And we pay a third of the taxes
Yeah.
that come out of our pockets.
Yep.
Yeah.
Part of our overhead.
Imagine
I
taxes.
can't even imagine how much my company pays. Knowing what my premiums are, I can't imagine what they pay every month.
It tells you.
I know.
Look, it's a
I
big
know,
one.
but I've never
It's
bothered
horrific.
to because it's
But I didn't look that up until this week.
Yeah.
Until this past week. So
So,
I don't-
Yeah, well, they make it very clear that they are providing, even though I've worked at this company for 16 years, and it wasn't until 12 years in that we even had to pay for our insurance. Employees, it was paid for, and then the spouse and children you had to pay the premium on. And then they had to, when you have a company of 10,000 people, something's got to give. And, and they give you incentives to try to make it less for you and they'll pay more.
You have wellness programs.
Well, yes, but it's even on top of that. If you don't smoke, you get a discount. If you,
Under a certain
enroll.
5%.
Yeah, if you enroll in the wellness program and you meet 2 or 3 criteria, then you get your party, $25 off of your premium every
It's
month.
10%.
And there's things that they do to try to counteract. It's whether or not you want to be involved in getting, it's an incentive for people to quit smoking, and it's up to you to decide if you want to quit or not to get that.
On the employer side, we are facing somewhere between 15 and 23% annual increases in the cost of insurance, which is unsustainable, and you can't do it. And so we've had to continually to raise the deductible for our employees. But then, since so many of them are young, we put in matching things, you know, to go, okay, if you ever do get sick and need it, we'll split the deductible with you.
Yeah.
But at least it lowers our premiums.
Right.
You know, in the meantime.
At least you're
it
able to
makes
do
it
that.
work.
I can't even do that.
Yeah, and then
You know, I'm paid $6,000 every month.
yeah, we pay $45
Myself.
and it's brutal. I mean, it's brutal.
It's brutal.
Well, and I think that, you know, it's sad because, and I mean, it's just my opinion, but I think that that's why insurance companies are starting to pull out. They thought that they were going to get more money, but they didn't change the way they did things either. So you can't be involved in something and expect people to be okay with it, but you're not going to change the way. You don't have to charge.
They were forced to.
But
change
you
the
don't
way they
have
did
to
it.
charge the amount that you charge. You don't have to, just like you said.
You absolutely
if
do have
you,
to.
No, they
have
don't.
to.
You
know how
don't
much
have to
get paid back
have.
on average on Medicare and Medicaid.
But
for
I'm
every
talk-
dollar that a hospital bills.
I'm talking about you don't have to charge $100 for a pill or.
Do you know why they do it? It is literally because you average 28 cents return on the dollar of what you turn in to Medicare
My
and
dad
Medicaid for the government
spends
to pay it back.
$800 a month out of pocket
I
for the
understand.
pills, the medication that he.
I'm telling you,
$800.
that a $20 aspirin
That's
is not
ridiculous.
$20 when you're collecting 28 cents of the money that you bill. So that's
I just-
eventually
you and
at
I
some
are
point you
never
have to
gonna
make it
agree
up.
on this.
And also, they were forced
Yeah.
to take everybody. That was part of the law. You have to take everybody, regardless of pre-existing conditions or not.
Right.
And so now they're paying a hell of a lot more. And so yeah, their costs have gone up exponentially, and their revenue didn't follow.
But they're still making a profit, to your point earlier.
Some
They
of
may
them
not
are,
have
some
made
aren't,
as much as they made the year before, but they're still making a profit.
Listen, I'm a fan of enforcing healthcare rules. What I do think is, and I will go back to Obama, the way they implemented it was horrible. If you really wanted to see major change, reform tort reform, because it's ridiculous the amount of punitive damages that go into this system that literally do nothing but line lawyers' pockets. And I come from a family of lawyers, so I know that. They make a third of all the punitive damage judgments out there. That's ridiculous. That should go into state fund to do something good. Maybe pay back into the healthcare system. That'd be nice. I wouldn't mind seeing that.
Yeah.
And let them sell across the state line.
Yeah.
When all your commercials are injury lawyers and all your billboards are injury lawyers,
Well, and
what does that tell you?
I agree with you on
Absolutely.
that. We talked about that last week or the week before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
On a lighter note, to end the party files section of Party Line, does anybody remember? And I'm sure you do. Backstreet Boys and NSYNC.
Mm-hmm.
The
New Kids on the Block before that.
yeah.
Oh, was he?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the architect of the modern boy band, Lou Pearlman, dies at 62 in prison.
Did they say what he died from?
You know what? I didn't read that deep into the article to find out what he died from, but I thought it was.
Bad music.
What was he in prison for?
Embezzlement, I believe.
Yeah. So
Lots of it.
yeah, Lou Pearlman was he was classic. He was you know when they there's this rap song that says industry rule number 4080, record company people are shady, and Lou Pearlman is the definition.
Of shady. His
Yeah,
name
so-
is beside shady in the dictionary.
Oh yeah, so it was so Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, and New Kids. He so he found these guys, got them going, but he would write himself. Not only was he manager and agent.
Oh.
So right off the top, that's 25%. He would also write himself in as the sixth member of the band.
Yeah.
So he was getting.
He also took the publishing rights.
Yeah, you're right. So he was getting.
Which is ridiculous.
So he was taking their publishing rights. He was taking a sixth of their mechanical royalties and 25% off the top
He had it-
as manager and agent. as unethical as it can get in the music business.
They said he died of unspecified causes. But it says along with the Ponzi scheme allegations.
They had a full American
Pearlman.
Greed show.
Pearlman.
Oh yeah.
It says, along with the Ponzi scheme allegations, Pearlman faced accusations of sexual misconduct against numerous young boy band members, first detailed in a 2007 Vanity Fair
I heard
article.
that too, but I don't think this
$300
was
million
civil judgment?
it cut it off. It said his sentence was tied to a $300 million whatever.
Yeah, I read it and I wasn't saddened, but I definitely looked at it as hopefully.
Now, it was sexual misconduct. It wasn't assault. It was showing porn and
like
being naked.
Just being a weirdo.
Naked around him and
I thought
That's bad enough.
that I hoped.
it is.
Yeah,
but-
yeah.
It
absolutely
is,
bad
but
enough.
I'm like, it could have been much worse, and
Yeah.
I'm not excusing
I'm
that
just
by
saying,
any means.
That's what he was convicted for.
I would totally-
find it hard to believe that.
I would totally beat
Never
the
act
shit
that.
out of somebody if I found out they did that to my kids,
Oof.
if not kill them.
Yeah, I just when I read it, I hoped that it was the end of an era. The being in the music industry is always going to have shady element to it. It is
That'll always be there.
It is what it is. But that level of greed and shadiness, I hope that era is coming to an end, especially since the music industry itself has had to reinvent itself in so many ways. How it markets, how it counts sales, everything, because mechanicals out there for anybody in podcast land, that's actually your physical sales.
Right.
So everything's had to be rethought because of the way technology has changed the industry. So
Let me ask you this. I think he was accused of horrific individual crimes. But would you say AEG as a corporation is any better than Lou Pearlman was? With all these 360 deals where literally they control all the money.
Well,
they
I think
they do all the accounting.
No, I think
It's
360.
the
I
same
think,
way
but
they
he
say
was-
Forrest Gump lost money.
I think 360s are. Now, I will say this: there are companies that do 360s, and they really make a real attempt to do right by the artist, because their philosophy is, if the artist isn't making money, we're not making money, so we want to make sure that we're doing right by them and making sure that they're making money. But as a general rule, I think 360 deals are horrific. I think
They screw the artist big time.
yeah,
I mean, because if you don't know out there in the world, the record labels get all their money back first before the artist ever sees a dime. They now own all the masters. They now own all the publishing rights.
yeah, and for
Who
the
was
first
the
time,
It's
first
ridiculous.
person to own their own masters?
I know the Beatles did. R.E.M. was
yeah,
all
the
their own masters.
Beatles.
Do you think it was
U2 owns
Ray
their own
Charles?
masters.
But
they
The
sold
first
Virgin.
person, the first artist to own their own masters.
It actually may have been. No, it actually wasn't.
I don't think so.
I can't remember the first person, but one of the first actually was Ray Charles, because Sinatra didn't. At the time Ray Charles got control of his masters, Sinatra didn't have control of his yet.
Well, that was just prior to starting Reprise. Once you had Reprise.
Yeah. Once he started
you got
Reprise
everything.
Records, yeah.
Yeah, you got it all.
But he was in prison for conspiracy, money laundering, and the Ponzi scheme, more so than anything he had to do with the music.
Yeah,
Well,
but
that's where he got all the money.
yeah, right.
I mean,
Exactly.
he robbed those kids blind.
Yeah,
Ooh-wee.
it said in there he was sued by all but one act that he.
Which was
Well,
probably,
he had a ton of them.
which was probably Old Town.
Because he was living down in Orlando.
Yeah.
When I was
Said they
living
got.
down
They
there.
said they got him in Bali.
Oof.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm sure Alvito would sure left the country immediately.
Yeah. I would have tried to
I'd
run
be
the
gone
volley
too.
if I was him.
No one here is screwed. I'd be out of there.
But obviously they extradited him. You want to go somewhere you can't be extradited.
Yeah, non-extradition countries, man.
Strange side note, I've been to the restaurant many times where El Chapo's kid was taken hostage. I've been there so many times. I'm like, really?
That is hilarious.
They picked him up there? That's nuts.
All right, so we want to end this week's segment of Party Files and get in a couple of quick party favors because we're actually running a little over today because there was just so much in the news. One thing in the party favors category is that it seemed like American women owned the 2016 Summer Games. They just, medal after medal, gold after gold, team and individual. It seemed like in events that women don't normally medal. American women don't normally medal high. It would seem like a pretty spectacular Olympics for the U.S. women's Olympic team. So then our next kind of party favor, which means more to me than probably the rest of the panel, there was a young man shot by police in Chicago named Laquan McDonald, and he was, in full disclosure, like he had a knife. But he was walking down the middle of the street. He wasn't near any people, and they gunned him down. He was on the ground, and the officer kept unloading his gun on him. And it looks like
That was in Chicago, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. It looks like 10 of the officers, possibly 7 of the officers, almost definitely are going to be fired. Which, my big pet peeve with all of these instances is that nobody seems to ever lose their job behind this malfeasance. But it looks like in this case, there's definitely going to be some retribution for some of the officers who not only did the shooting, but stood around and allowed it to just continue. So that it's a sad subject, but the favor in it is that it looks like there may be some justice for Laquan after all. And that's my last party favor? No, my second to last party favor is it looks like the Justice Department is going to phase out the use of private prisons in the American system, and I thought that was great because I've never thought that the private prison system did any good for our society. A lot of times, private prison system really winds up housing criminals that really don't need to be there for long stints, sometimes not for any stint, and they wind up seeming to be debtors' prisons a lot of times more than they do, really, housing real criminals. And the fact that at least the federal government won't be using them anymore, I thought was a party favor for this week. We still have state and federal prisons, and trust me, there's going to be plenty of people who are going to wind up, behind bars in those systems. But, prisons for profit bother me because there's no incentive to let you out because you're getting paid the more bodies you house. So, before I move on, I see some concerned looking faces. Anybody have something they want to say on that subject?
It's just a really tricky issue for me. I don't think the federal government does anything well. I'm not saying that the for-profit prisons are any better than the federal prisons. I can rattle off a list of some pretty shitty federal prisons that are run by the government And they started the private programs because the federal prisons were so bad. So I don't know if this is just, and again, not a party guy, I'm generally fairly independent on these things, but is this just a Democratic reaction to trying to go back now that you're hearing all this in the news, or is this, were they truly run poorly? I mean, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I just know that it's yet again another Democratic, president of Congress making a decision to, take money out of the private sector and put it back in the public sector, and I disagree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same way with schools. I don't want to see them do away with private, private schools.
It's gotten hard for me to trust the DOJ anymore. I see the DOJ as a very, very polarized political branch when it's not supposed to be that anymore, and it just really is somewhat bothersome to me. So I don't know what to think about it. I'm not that well versed in it, to be honest with you. I don't know how much I ended up in one, and be factual about that a couple times. It's just hard to say. I kind of like with Chris. I don't see them as being a partial judgment anymore. I see them as being a polarized judgment.
I agree with the profit incentive. You would think intellectually it gives you a reason to keep people in there and, spend less money and all that kind of stuff. I don't know that that's true. I have no idea that it's not true. But I do know that there's probably good private prisons and bad ones. I think there's good federal prisons and bad ones.
Yeah,
Certainly
and they're not saying that they're going
Colorado's
to
doing pretty well.
suddenly go away.
But I agree.
There's going to be good and bad businesses.
I completely agree.
100%. Because they are a business.
That's
And
true.
I think that's my personal problem.
That they're a business.
Yeah, that they are a business, not.
Some businesses are going to run well, some businesses are going to run bad.
I
think that's what you're seeing.
and because
there's probably some
there are
good-
going to be good and bad run businesses. Some things I don't think should be for-profit businesses.
Some of these prisons have been set up for profit by some people that are pretty Christian in their values, and they are in there trying to rehab, some of their people and give them some faith base to try to give them something to come out of. I read a book a long time ago about an individual that was here in Kansas City, was messed up with that mafia here in town, and was one serious bad dude. I mean, a really serious bad dude, and found his faith and found his way out. Spent a lot of time in prison, but he has built several of the for-profit prisons. The one up in St. Joe was part of his likening to build. So, there are people out there that try to build these things to have a positive impact on the inmates who are in there, with hope of being able to help get out without just, like you said, being housed. So you have some of that too. So like I said, it's a mix of both.
I'd love to see the pure economics on it, to be true. I mean, I would love to know the pure economics on it.
Homework
That's
for
what the
young
whole time I
man.
was thinking, we should just look at the data.
Yeah,
I feel like
so you
this
gotta do.
is a pure data question.
Homework for young Massey. We're gonna bring this up on a.
Well, if you're here next week, maybe you'll have time.
Yeah, but I said we're gonna bring this back up at
You would be good at that.
in a later podcast. We're gonna ask young Mr. Massey to, since he is the data analyst on the table, to look at the data and see what it kind of just empirically says. Like I say, I know how I feel about it, but a lot of the actual data I don't know. But I just the idea of a corporation, is to turn a profit and to make money for its shareholders. And so to that end, to me, there is no incentive to let anybody out of jail because the more bodies, the more money. And so I'm really, in a weird place about for-profit prisons. But like I said, we will revisit this on a and my last favor for the day, I wanted to end on something much lighter because I thought that this was actually pretty funny and kind of uplifting story in some odd ways. I want to talk about the 19-year-old mayor He is the youngest mayor in Maryland history. He is the mayor of Indian Head, Maryland. And of course, there is a naval base there. And the rest of the city that doesn't have anything to do with the naval base, has had some hard times. And which kind of gets back to what we were saying earlier about, I think there's so many people who want to get rid of the old and start something new, come up with some new ideas, put some fresh blood in. And the fact that this young man felt the call and ran for mayor, and that his town of about 4,000 or so felt like, hey, you know what?
Get the kid a shot.
Let's get a kid a shot, and I thought that was pretty cool. His name is Brandon Pealman, if I'm not mistaken.
I think that's pretty cool that they did that. Now, be careful, because remember, I think I just read something in the paper about the former Lawrence mayor that was 32 years old, and he did some bad things, I think, right? Huh? I think he might be going to jail
for a little while.
Yeah. Now, I'm not saying that this is definitely going to solve anything.
I will say this: that mayor was a millennial.
Yes.
This 19-year-old really isn't a millennial anymore.
No.
He came up through the recession, and he's seen some different things.
Exactly.
And he's seen the military get pared down, and his town is suffering because they don't have all the personnel to spend the money there.
Exactly.
So, I wish him well. I hope he's a bright young man.
Yeah, I am hopeful.
And he can find ways to work with people. The only thing I say about 19, and it's, we've all read articles. National Geographic had a brilliant article, probably a year and a half ago, about brain development. And at 19, your brain is still developing.
It's very true.
So, how does this kid handle himself? The only thing I can say about him, he shouldn't be tainted.
I hope not.
He's gonna be a fresh brain.
I hope not. And that's what was encouraging to me. It's just what was really encouraging to me is that somebody that young wanted to get involved, like truly get involved.
That's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, it was.
I agree with that.
It was. Well, with that said, I think we have come to the place where it is time to end our podcast, and I want to end this podcast in the way that I end all podcasts, and that is with the toast that started it all for me, and that is to good times with good people.